Welcome back to TLDR's daily briefing for Friday the 9th of May 2025. In today's episode, North Korea's latest missile test, Bill Gates' plan to spend all his money, and Albania's upcoming election. But first, the new Pope. On Thursday evening in the Vatican City, white smoke was seen coming out of the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, signalling that a new Pope had been elected with a 2/3 majority. The process, known as a conclave, lasted 2 days and took 4 rounds of voting. Cardinals chose a 69-year-old American, Robert Prevost, now better known as Pope Leo XIV. Prevost, who's originally from Chicago, is the first ever American Pope. This breaks a long-standing taboo against American candidates, as the US was typically viewed as too powerful to provide a unifying leader. However, Prevost is also a naturalized Peruvian citizen, having spent decades in Peru, where bishops were reportedly split between leftists, influenced by Latin America's liberation theology, and arch-conservatives. But Prevost's most recent post was in Rome, as president of the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, to which he was appointed by Pope Francis in 2023. Analysts say this would have helped him to build a strong network among cardinals, with Prevost reportedly knowing and being known by everybody. The election was widely viewed as a referendum on the late Pope Francis's progressive leadership. Pope Leo, who is viewed as a moderate, shares Francis's views on the environment and immigration, and has criticized US Vice President J.D. Vance and the Trump administration's deportations policy on X. However, he has conservative views on the role of women in the church, having opposed female priests, and is also against abortion. Congratulations have poured in from world leaders, including in the US. Trump said, "It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope," while J.D. Vance said, "I'm sure millions of American Catholics and other Christians will pray for his successful work leading the church." Russian President Vladimir Putin also extended his congratulations, adding, "I am confident that the constructive dialogue and cooperation established between Russia and the Vatican will continue to develop on the basis of the Christian values that unite us." As the spiritual leader of 1.4 billion Catholics, Pope Leo faces a significant range of global challenges. The last Pope Leo, from 1878 to 1903, was known for his focus on workers' rights and social justice issues. It's likely the new Pope will take a similar direction. Addressing crowds in Italian and Spanish last night, Leo said in his first speech, "Peace be with all of you." He added that he wanted a Catholic Church that would always seek peace, charity, and to always be especially close to those who suffer. You're listening to TLDR's Daily Briefing. If you want more explainers on what's happening in the world, then you should check out TLDR's other channels. Today, we released a video on the US-UK trade deal and the latest episode of our UK politics podcast, Starmageddon. You can find those videos linked in the description or show notes for this episode, or by searching for TLDR on YouTube or Nebula. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un oversaw tests of short-range ballistic missile systems, state media said on Friday, adding that he stressed the importance of combat readiness for the country's nuclear forces. Reuters cites the KCNA state news agency as saying that the tests involved the 600mm multiple launch rocket systems and tactical ballistic missile Hwasong-11, the latter of which Western officials say has been supplied to Russia for use in Ukraine. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff previously said it had detected multiple launches from North Korea's eastern coast on Thursday morning, and that the launches were possibly aimed at testing the performance of weapons that it plans to export. Billionaire Bill Gates has announced plans to celebrate his philanthropic giving by spending nearly his entire fortune over the next 20 years, and ultimately close his Gates Foundation in 2045, earlier than previously planned. Over the next 2 decades, he expects to spend more than $200 billion on global health, development, and education, considerably more than the $100 billion spent over the past 25 years. Gates said, "I think 20 years is the right balance between giving as much as we can to make progress on these things and giving people a lot of notice that now this money will be gone." Previously, the Gates Foundation had planned to close down 2 decades after Gates, now 69, passes away. Gates does have his critics, including those who accuse him of using his philanthropy as a tax shield and those uncomfortable with the huge influence his billions have on setting global priorities. But in announcing his future plans, Gates turned his fire on fellow billionaire Elon Musk for the Trump allies' move to shut down the US aid agency, with Gates saying, "The picture of the world's richest man killing the world's poorest children is not a pretty one." Finally, over to Albania, where the country will hold its general elections on Sunday, and where Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama of the Socialist Party will be seeking to win an unprecedented fourth term, despite the wear and tear of years in power and a series of corruption-related controversies tied to his administration. Rama is positioning himself and the Socialist Party as the only modernising political force equipped to bring Albania's lengthy transition from communism to a final close through EU accession. However, critics say that Rama wields too much power and has failed to uproot corruption and attempted to silence the opposition. Still, polls show Rama with a commanding lead over the opposition, the Democratic Party, led by Sali Berisha, a former prime minister who held office for 8 years, who has also been weathered by corruption allegations himself. That's all for today. We'll be back with you next week, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. In the meantime, you can check out the latest episode of our UK politics podcast, Starmageddon. You can find the link in the podcast description. This was a TLDR news production hosted by Georgina Findlay, written by Georgina Findlay, Rory Taylor and Nadia Lovadinov, and produced by Scarlett Watchorn. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again next week.